Coming up next on Tech News Weekly, it's me, Jason Howell, and my co-host Mikah Sargent. We talk first with Florence Ion about the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event and get a first look at the Samsung S22 Ultra. Pretty cool stuff there. Also, we talk with Dan Moren about Apple's AirTags and how they're getting some privacy-related changes. We dive into the weeds with the Earn It Act, because that's big news today. And finally, the Lifetime movie about a rapper and a startup founder who launder billions in crypto and get caught. That's coming up next on Tech News Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Tech News Weekly, episode 221, recorded Thursday, February 10th, 2022.
This episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Streak. Whether you're tracking sales, fundraising, hiring, or support, Streak is a CRM that will help you stay on top of all of your processes directly inside Gmail. Get 20% off your first year of their Pro plan, their most popular option, by going to streak.com/TNW.
And by Imperfect Foods. Combating climate change feels big and overwhelming. Well, there's an easy and delicious way to make an impact, and that's Imperfect Foods. Right now, Imperfect Foods is offering our listeners 20% off your first 4 orders when you go to imperfectfoods.com and use promo code TNW.
And by BetterHelp. Join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/TNW. Hello, and welcome to Tech News Weekly, the show where every week we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I'm the other guy, Jason Howell. Good to see you, Mikah. And this is like TNW invaded by All About Android today. It's pretty exciting for me anyways.
It is very exciting, yes.
Yeah. It's good to welcome to the show Florence Ion from Gizmodo. Let's say Gizmodo at the top and then All About Android right underneath Gizmodo to talk a little bit about yesterday's Samsung event. Flo, it's great to have you here.
Oh my goodness, did we have a Samsung event already?
Already. Yeah, and not only that, we already have the next version of Android that dropped this morning that you also wrote about, but we aren't really going to talk very much about that.
Oh my gosh, do we have the next Samsung phone in hand right now?
No, you're so lucky. I'm so jealous. I wasn't even able to place my order yesterday. I literally tried for hours to give Samsung my money through the Samsung website, and it wouldn't work for me, but you didn't have to do that, apparently. You've got the Ultra.
No, but I did. Okay, Jason, just let's hold on. Hi, Mikah, also, by the way. I do have to write like thousands of words about this. So remember, It's not all roses from here. And all I've been doing is just trying to see if this zoom, there's 4 lenses on this thing. I'm trying to see if this zoom on this 108 megapixel camera is it, if it's going to really finally... Is it going to take the crisp picture of a bridge that I want it to? That is my ultimate test.
That's a good question. So I'm going to go test
that later today.
I mean, I kind of feel like when it comes to the cameras on the phone, I've just realized time and time again that telephoto, if there's an optical lens on a phone, that ends up being the extra lens that I use the most more than like a wide angle or even, more often I'm using it more than the main and trying to get a distance in doing that. So I love that the S22 Ultra has that. And I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Samsung had an event yesterday. They announced a bunch of devices, essentially the Galaxy S series phones. So the S22, the S22 Plus, the S22 Ultra, which is the one that you were just holding up there. And then a couple of tablets as well, the Tab S8. Is there an S8 Plus? I know there's an S8 Ultra.
Yes.
Maybe there's only, okay. So it's the three different
Papa
variants
Bear,
on both sides.
Mama Bear, and Baby Bear.
So I mean, Samsung, I will say, like, I was doing live coverage of the Samsung event yesterday morning here for TWiT on my lonesome, but I wasn't lonely because I thought Samsung actually did a really great job illustrating these devices. I don't know how popular, how many units they're going to sell. It's Samsung. They're probably going to do all right. But I'm curious to know your thoughts, like starting with the S series devices. Are you happy with the upgrades that we're seeing? Is the Ultra enough? Well, what do you think?
I think that the S22 series as a whole is just really supposed to be an update, but that Ultra is supposed to be the real thing that everybody is going to pay attention to.
Yeah,
the S22 and the S22 Plus, they're the updates to last year's phone. In terms of looks, I have one of the S22 Plus as well, but obviously the Ultra is taking precedence because that is essentially the reboot of the Note lineup. And that is who Samsung's really appealing to with this, to kind of reestablish and say, look, we've consolidated these devices so that you have one flagship event. And then I think now, instead of what we used to get a Note event in the summer, we're going to get a foldables event. And so that's where like the real Samsung fans. Because if you're a real Samsung fan, maybe you've given up on the large form factor and now you want something foldable. So
yeah, you want something new. You're always looking for your next fix. Like, what's the next thing to get me excited about Samsung devices? Samsung delivers on that. So, I think that's smart. We've been talking the last couple of years about these rumors that the Note series was going away. Ultimately, it's kind of like, yeah, that happened, but it's a super technicality, right? Like last year, we didn't have a Note. This year we do, but it's not called a Note. It's called the S22 Ultra. Are Note fans, and also realizing you've only had this device for a short amount of time, I'm assuming, based on what you've seen so far, like, is this more or less an apples to apples comparison between what Note fans got before and what they're getting now? Are there any aspects of this new Ultra device that take the Note that they originally got and improve upon that and take it to another level? What do you think?
This hardware is incredible in the hand. I will certainly say that. And the hardware that they stuffed into it is all like the latest and greatest. I didn't check to see which memory model they sent me, but you can get it with up to 12 gigs of RAM. So this is definitely, It's the same like power user's device that the Note was, all the way down to that stylus. And it really feels like they just reopened the warehouse where they were making the Note and just turned the machines back on. And they're just like, all right, let's continue production now with, the sort of visual improvements they've made to like the outside of the phone. It's not it's a teensy tiny matte. So works. You're not super worried about it.
What color is it?
Sliding around on like a desk mat.
Yeah, right.
Is it graphite in color? What is the finish you're working? I couldn't quite tell.
It's Phantom Black, and it looks a little gray in person.
Okay.
Looks a little gray. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they even have some colors that are specific only if you're ordering on Samsung. And so I think they actually have like a gray that is, so the Phantom Black anybody can get. But if you go to Samsung, they have like a gray variant that's a little bit lighter than that and a couple of other colors. Another thing
Call
that the
me
S22
when they get
Ultra,
Phantom Green. That's all I have to say.
They do. Do they have a green? I feel like maybe they do. I don't know. I lost track.
Yes.
They've got a bunch of colors. That looks pretty.
I think all the phones
greenish.
Come in 3 of the same colors, and then the special one for the Ultra is going to be this burgundy red, and it's really stunning in person. I think it's really pretty. I'm going to see because my mom is supposed to upgrade her Note 8 to this device. Like, she's been waiting for this, so I'll see if she...
Oh, okay. Your mom has taste if she's waiting for the S22 Ultra.
She's still using the Note 8, which is not...
Yeah, it's time.
Very recent.
It's time. It's time for her to get one of these so that she can become a TikTok star, which really, it seemed through the presentation, Samsung is paying a lot of attention to, obviously, the camera hardware, but also software features that are going to give it a little bit more of that kind of like, yes, you can do a lot of things with this that you could do, in film, let's say, so that you could take your social media video to the next level. So who knows? Maybe your mom is going to become a star. It also seems like it's tailored around gaming. They had mentioned that there was a vapor chamber cooling system inside of this device. I think that's new to the Galaxy series devices. I don't know if there's any way of really putting that to the test on your end when you end up doing a full review. Is that something that you're working on? Will you be doing a full review of the S22 Ultra?
I am doing a full review. Yes, I'm starting with the photography because that's the most quickest to access. But I'm going to do synthetic benchmarks, the whole battery rundown. I am going to look to that thermal chamber situation to see, is this just marketing? How hot does this phone get when I'm running benchmarks on it? How hot does it get when I'm just using Pokemon Go out in the sun and, the sun is kind of hitting down on the metal, because all these things will affect the temperature of the phone in total. And again, this thing is a huge powerhouse.
Yeah. Well, and if that's able to ramp down the heat inside of the device, then you're going to get, potentially better battery life, better performance. All these things could potentially shift the performance of the Ultra series, which was already top notch in previous years, but shifted to an even newer level. And of course, it has the S Pen that hides inside. So that's exciting. I realize it's easy to talk about this and burn through our time. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I did want to kind of mention the tablet side of things because Google's working to kind of revitalize, it seems like, on their end, the tablet ecosystem for Android. Whether they're going to be successful with that or not remains to be seen. Android 12L is, tailored for larger screen devices. So obviously that's going to work with foldables, also with tablets. And I think I saw some news that said that this device is going to be getting 12L support relatively nearish. I don't know when that time is, but how do you feel about Samsung's approach here with these tablets, which are not inexpensive? Like the top of the line, the Ultra of the S8 series, or the Tab S8 series, is, what is it, $1,100? That's an expensive price for an Android tablet. That's crazy. Yeah, starting. That's crazy. What do you think? What are your thoughts there?
Let's also not forget the $300 keyboard accessory, which you would really like to have if you want to get full functionality out of that 14.6-inch Tab S8 Ultra.
It's huge. It's huge. It's larger than the largest iPad, I believe, right? I think that's 12.5 or something like that. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really curious to see. I think Samsung's going to position that larger one as kind of like a Chromebook replacement. Maybe I don't want to use Chrome OS, but I want everything in Android. I don't know. I feel like you really have to be okay with using DeX, because DeX is essentially Samsung's, it has a very similar layout. You'll see a dock on it, and there's even a mouse cursor. There's a really nice trackpad on that Folio case, by the way. It feels just as nice as a laptop. I was really.
Do the keys? Okay, so do you have so apparently you have that case, or maybe you don't. I don't know. But
I got to touch these for about an hour when I was photographing them.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So the question I always have with cases like that have the keyboard, when it comes to the keys themselves, do they travel enough? Because I find that the really shallow travel keyboard cases, that's not going to work for me long term. It might work for an email here and there, but I couldn't punch out an article on it.
Oh no, it's solid. It's a solid keyboard. It's a solid keyboard, and it's backlit. So I have some, and I went with long nails, and I got to kind of try it out. So
you're also a big keyboard person. You rock the mechanical keyboards and all that kind of stuff. So I'm actually impressed to hear that you like this one.
I actually also liked the keyboard on the really small Surface Go 3. So I'm really into the idea of a Folio keyboard. I like it because I really liked the keys on the Pixelbook. And they were, remember, Jason, those kind of had a very similar short travel, but
that's true. And I actually liked those. So that's a really good point. Mm-hmm. That's one example of kind of that shortish travel that I guess I adapted to or got used to. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I've had some of these cases though where it's really shallow, and I don't know. It's almost like you're tapping on doing a keyboard on a touch screen, and I know. That just doesn't do it for me.
Nope. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Just very quickly wanted to mention the Tab S8 Plus and the small Tab S8. I think those are $700 and $900 respectively starting prices. And those I think are definitely supposed to be like Android tablets that you consider for something that is high performing, high res screen. The screens on all of those tablets are gorgeous because you would expect, quite frankly, nothing less from Samsung.
For sure.
And so you're choosing the brand because you really like their displays, and that's what you're investing in at the end of the day. They have all the same internals, though. I believe that they have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. It's really just going to be down to what is Android going to be like for these form factors, and that is a wait and see.
That is a really big question mark. I have to imagine it's going to be better than it is currently. I mean, I'm optimistic about the fact that Google's actually paying attention to it again, and that's a good thing. But again, it's that chicken and egg problem. Great. So the OS is made to be more tablet friendly. Where are the apps at? Are the developers actually caring as much about that functionality and broadening out that what they're offering for tablet users on Android in the same way that they are on iPad? And I'm just not so convinced. Each time this happens, I'm not so convinced that's going to happen because I'm proven wrong every time. So here we are.
Here we are.
Flo, thank you so much for hopping on with us this morning. I always love podcasting with you, so it's great to get you on this show as well. Flo, of course, writes for Gizmodo, gizmodo.com. Follow all her stuff over there. Definitely be looking out for her review of some of these devices. Also, we mentioned earlier in this interview about Android 13. Flo has already written about that, so go read that right after this show is done. Flo, thank you so much. It was great talking with you.
Thank you,
morning.
Jason. Thank you, Mikah. And I love all of you back at the studio. Thank you.
We'll see you soon, Flo. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Up next, your iPhone could become a cash register. More on that in a moment. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Streak. As a startup founder or entrepreneur, you know what it's like running your business from your inbox. Whether you're tracking sales, your fundraising, your hiring, or support, Streak is a CRM that will help you stay on top of all of your processes. And this is what's cool about it. It works directly inside Gmail. Use Streak's free email tools to check if your emails have been opened and send bulk emails with automated follow-up emails to improve your response rates. Since Streak is built inside of Gmail, it's part of your everyday workflow. That way you can see details about your leads, your customers, and your investors all right there alongside your email. There's no more switching between Gmail and other tools. Whether you're prospecting for new customers or maybe you're raising a fundraising round, you're growing your team, you're managing support tickets, just use Streak because the pipelines are there to track all your processes directly from Gmail. Getting started is super easy. You can set up your first pipeline in 2 minutes and customize each pipeline based on your needs. Streak makes it easy to collaborate by automatically sharing emails and notes with anyone on your team. And Streak was recognized as Google's Technology Partner of the Year and is used by thousands of founders, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. I mean, think about this idea of being right there in your Gmail account and being able to track all of these things versus command tabbing or control tabbing to different windows or opening up a bunch of applications and the fans start spinning up on your laptop, all that kind of stuff. No, it all happens right there in your Gmail. It's so handy to have all of that available. You can try out Streak today. It's free to use on your own, or you can use the Pro plan with your team. Get 20% off your first year of Streak's Pro plan, their most popular option, by going to streak.com/TNW. That's STREAK.com/TNW for 20% off. And of course, thank you to Streak for sponsoring this week's episode of Tech News Weekly. All right. Earlier this week, as we record this show, Apple made an announcement that came on the heels of a report from Bloomberg and other places about Apple maybe getting into the tap-to-pay game. And you may be going, wait a second, Apple's already in the tap-to-pay game. I can use my iPhone and go to the grocery store and tap, and then that pays with Apple Pay for my groceries. It is not quite that. Joining us to explain what's going on is Six Colors' Dan Moren. Welcome back to the show, Dan.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we're happy to get you here to talk about this. So I was hoping that we could start things off just by kind of giving us the basic level of what Apple announced and how it differs from what people might be used to whenever they hear about tap to pay.
Sure. Yeah. More tapping, more paying. That's what it's all about. So the biggest difference for this between, what you've probably done with Apple Pay in the grocery store and what Apple's now rolling out as a update to its iOS software is essentially the ability to turn any iPhone into a payment terminal, which means instead of, having your place where you normally tap your credit card or maybe insert it for the chip, an iPhone could be used as a way to receive payments. And the big benefit for this is for merchants who may not have access to a complicated point of sale infrastructure. So, your grocery stores obviously have all these terminals set up already. But if you go to your local farmer market, for example, you probably run into a situation with seeing people use those little square readers or other little register style setups that might integrate with Apple Pay. But by integrating this software feature, it means that an iPhone can just be the way that people accept payments from you. It will require some buy-in from software developers who write these kinds of infrastructures. So maybe companies like Square or Venmo, perhaps, as well as other places like Stripe, which is already committed to essentially working with this new system. But yeah, it's mainly targeted at small business merchants, things like that, which will be accepting payments on sort of a more ad hoc basis.
Understood. So yeah, that was kind of my first question here is, this is not I can't today open up my iPhone and then hold it next to someone else's iPhone and be able to make a payment. Apple was talking about it working through different apps. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means in particular, and then maybe a little bit more about the companies that are already involved? Because I heard some early talk about this, and there was already confusion where folks thought that Stripe was like the back end of this system, but that is not the case. So if you could explain that a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So essentially you're not going to be using this to send money to your friends, right? If you go out to the movies or go to a restaurant or something, this isn't the sort of situation where it's like you tap your phone on your friend's phone and you send them money. Apple's still using the Apple Cash system in the US for that, where you use iMessage. Again, this is sort of something that uses the same NFC chip. And just think about it this way. If you've used your iPhone in the past to send payments to other, merchants or buy things at stores, this is now a way that those stores can use their iPhones to get payments from customers. And so as a sort of software framework, Apple's not building the actual sort of interface for this really so much as it's not going to be something that's baked in. It's going to require third-party apps to take advantage of it. They'll need to use the features that Apple is providing in order to take advantage of these NFC payments. And as you said, so Stripe is not the backend, but they will be a platform that offers this, which means other merchants that integrate Stripe. So for example, Shopify, I think, has already said that they will be on board with this, will be able to use this sort of payment framework in order to sort of accept payments going forward.
Understood. So with this, it's, of course, using the NFC technology that's available in the iPhone. Other than using an iPhone to pay for something, I've got Apple Pay. It's my understanding that this will support multiple types of payment methods, including the cards. Like if you have a card with the little symbol on it that it means tap to pay, it will work with that. Do we know at this point if it's going to work with other platforms like, I don't know if it's called Android Pay or Google Pay right now, but that one, Jason could chime in with that. And I don't know if Samsung wants to do its own payment system. Is this just kind of have they sort of widened the acceptance of what can be used to pay to also include other third-party payment options outside of just me being able to use my Apple Wallet?
Right. The short answer is not explicitly, but if you kind of read between the lines, because of the fact that it will accept payments from contactless credit and debit cards, as you said, if you've got a card with that little tap to pay logo on it, it'll work here. That suggests to me it's using the sort of standard wireless payment system. And there's no reason that, in theory, someone could not use Google Pay or Android Pay. I also don't remember what it's called, to pay for something in the same way. Because just as your grocery store accepts Apple Pay and, all the other sort of wireless contactless payment systems, in theory, it seems to me this will be using sort of the same protocol. So it suggests that I think you'll be able to potentially use that, assuming that Android and Samsung get on board, but probably convenient for them. So I'm not sure why they wouldn't necessarily do that.
Now, right now, this is just an iPhone thing, but I can remember, going to stores where they bought into what Square offered, where you would slide an iPad kind of into this terminal and it would serve as the point of sale system. Do you think this speaks to a future where iPad has NFC that would accept payments? If you could sort of, look into the crystal ball, do you think that this could be a little bit here? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually wouldn't be surprised, especially as we start to hear rumors about an Apple event in March, which might potentially see a refresh of the iPad Air. Part of me wonders if the reason Apple decided to announce this and the fact that it's in the betas at all is perhaps that it's intended to, sort of defuse people snooping around, finding this and sort of making, their own guesses based on it. But it also makes me think that perhaps that iPad Air update might include an NFC chip. In the past, there have been a couple iPads that had it, but it's never been activated and it's never been something that you can actually use. So I can imagine Apple being in a scenario where they'd love to be able to say, hey, look, here's an iPad. You can buy this, and this will be basically right out of the box. Just download your software, and it's a point-of-sale terminal. I think that's a big opportunity for them, even though that's already being the device is already being used for that in a variety of places with third-party opportunities like Square or Toast. Apple being able to sort of say, hey, it works out of the box, you just need the software, is, I think, potentially a really big win for them. So I would not be shocked to see an NFC chip appear in an iPad sometime in the next year.
Absolutely. Now, we don't have too much time left, but I did want to talk to you about a news story that came out this morning, published in Apple's newsroom, to address AirTags and the ongoing reports that we're hearing about them being used for tracking. You've got one argument that suggests that these types of devices have been used for tracking folks for a long time. And because of the inbuilt protections that Apple has introduced with AirTag, that's why more people are actually discovering that they're being tracked. You've got others who say, regardless of whether this is new or old or what it is not, because of Apple's huge network of devices that can use the AirTag as a tracking mechanism, that Apple should do more to address this. Apple has come out with a statement talking about this, and I was hoping that you could just give us a basic understanding of what Apple has said and then what changes or updates are coming to AirTags in the near future.
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple different prongs to this. One is Apple says it's done a lot of active work with law enforcement in cases where people report AirTags on their persons and think they're being tracked. They sort of try to reassure people by saying that this is rare, but also make a point of saying, like, it shouldn't happen at all. They point out that serial numbers are associated with AirTags, which are then associated with Apple IDs. So you can, in theory, find out who an Apple ID belongs to if you subpoena Apple. And they sort of say, all right, so we're going to make some changes to the Find My network and AirTags going forward. One of them will be a new warning that happens during AirTag setup that will explicitly say, hey, this is not meant for tracking people. That's a crime, and we can track you down if you try to do that. So that's intended as sort of deterrent. They're also refining some of the alerts that come up when you've got an AirTag that's unknown that you find with you. One of them is that apparently there are some cases, it seems like, where maybe people have misinterpreted, like there are vague messages that could suggest an AirTag is moving with you, but it's actually a set of AirPods, for example. So they're going to refine that to make it clearer when it's an AirPod situation versus an AirTag. They're going to update their support documentation, which explains basically all the safety features are already built into AirTags. And then they're going to improve some of the stuff on the AirTags themselves, including ability to do precision finding using the U1 chip. That's their sort of ultra wideband chip that lets you do really precise finding with AirTags. This will let people who actually get that notification that they've got an AirTag moving with them more easily locate it by using this precision finding if it's within range. They'll also basically have alerts as well as sounds, that sort of already sound, but they're going to improve those in cases like, for example, adjusting the tone sequence to make it louder or to make it more easy to find. And then they're also going to do a little bit with the sort of algorithms that are built in to make sure that the alerts that are being thrown up are like the most accurate that they can be in terms of making sure there aren't false alarms or making sure that you're not missing cases where stuff actually is traveling with you. So some refinements of the software and the network overall to just make this more reliable and easier to track down people when they do misuse them.
Got it. Well, that is a great rundown of those things. You can also check out that newsroom article if you would like. Of course, folks can head to sixcolors.com to check out your work. But where else should folks be on the lookout for you, Dan?
Sure. You can find me at Moren on Twitter. You can find all about me on my website, dmoren.com. And I host the weekly show Clockwise with Mikah over at Relay FM every Wednesday at noon Eastern. So you can always check that out, too.
Yes, please do. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hope you have a lovely rest of your day, Dan.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Dan. All right. Up next, I found myself asking the question, what is the Earn It Act that just actually passed in the Senate? So I took it upon myself to learn a little bit about it. So I'm going to pass along some of that knowledge to you. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Imperfect Foods. It's all about combating climate change through food, right? Feels so big and overwhelming to actually tackle the problem of climate change. What are the ways that we as individuals can actually chip in and make a difference, however big, however small? What can one person do by themselves? Well, there's an easy and, by the way, delicious way to make an impact, and that is Imperfect Foods. Imperfect Foods is a grocery delivery service that's actually offering an entire line of sustainable groceries. They taste delicious. They also reduce waste just by embracing the natural imperfections of food, because food is not perfect, right? We go into a grocery store and we might think that all the apples look that perfect, but all the apples don't look that perfect. It's just a lot of times the grocery stores pick the apples that look perfect, and then there's other apples that look imperfect, let's say. Where does that food go? Well, visit imperfectfoods.com and you can see, first of all, you want to make sure that they deliver in your area. But once you sign up, you can actually personalize your weekly grocery order with fresh seasonal produce, pantry staples, yummy snacks. Oh, some delicious snacks. I had these like chocolate covered pretzels over Christmas sprinkled with peppermint flakes. Wow. They were so good. I couldn't stop eating them. Plus, your order is going to arrive on the same day every week. And that actually makes it easy to, yes, build a stress-free routine, but it also cuts down on emissions, 25 to 75% fewer emissions, in fact, because Imperfect delivers weekly by neighborhood. So instead of the delivery truck driving all over, it limits your deliveries to a single day, and that's better for planet Earth. It saves 6 to 8 pounds of food with every order as well, on average. And it's just it's just a really cool process. Say goodbye to packaging guilt. In fact, Imperfect Foods is the only national grocery delivery company that makes it super easy to return your packaging after every order, so you don't feel like you're just loading up the landfill with even more plastics or anything like that. And my experience was that it was just really great building out the box, right? Going onto the website, taking a look at what they have. You can have Imperfect Foods kind of populate a box for you. And then if there are changes you want to make, you can absolutely go in there and make the changes. And the whole process was just super simple. Right now, Imperfect Foods is offering our listeners 20% off your first 4 orders. So not just one order, you get 20% off your first 4 orders when you go to imperfectfoods.com and make sure and use the promo code TNW. Again, 20% off your first 4 orders. That is up to an $80 value when you go to imperfectfoods.com and use the promo code TNW. Join the movement, imperfectfoods.com, promo code TNW. And we thank Imperfect Foods for their support and their deliciousness. All right, so just this morning, right? Earn It Act is back. Well, is in the news. It just passed through the Senate. And by the way, if you didn't know, Earn It actually it stands for something, as all of these acronyms seem to, right?
Yeah.
Eliminating Abusive and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act. I don't know how long it took them to come up with that, but there you go. Earn It for short. I've been curious about it, been hearing it on some of Leo's shows and, just kind of seeing it pop up here and there. And I noticed when I was reading it this morning, I had this moment of kind of fear of talking about it because I didn't want to put my foot in my mouth. And then I was like, you know what?
Right.
Instead of not talking about it in that case, I'm gonna read up on it and I'm gonna talk about it and I'm gonna get over that fear. So let's dig in. On the surface, it's really all about Section 230, which, as we know, essentially this provides general immunity for websites, for platforms, specifically related to content that's posted by a third party on a site. Section 230 has been around for a very long time, right? It doesn't hold the site or the platform responsible for the content. And because it's been around for a long time, it's been a target. It's been in the crosshairs of DC for quite a while. In the case of Earn It, this actually targets sexual exploitation online, and in particular CSAM, which stands for Child Sexual Abuse Imagery. Kind of which at it on the surface and at its core, no one wants this kind of content online, right? We can all agree this is bad stuff. This is horrible stuff, and it shouldn't be out there. Earn It would actually remove Section 230 protections for sites and platforms that knowingly transmit CSAM. So that's kind of the broad strokes of what Earn It is all about. And I think a lot of people, myself included, would agree, okay, we need to do something to prevent this content from being disseminated online. Where do you start with this? Well, the problems with Earn It kind of pop up when you're talking about human rights as one example. Human rights groups are actually arguing that it wouldn't actually solve the problem of the dissemination of CSAM as much as it would harm free speech in general online. They say by opening providers up to significantly expanded liability, the bill would actually make it far riskier for platforms to host user-generated content. That's their words. And the word, the phrase chilling effect kind of comes to mind when I think of this, right? Sites would be more responsible for the content that is on their platform, and they would need to do the job of policing it for fear that if any of this CSAM ends up on their network, they are held liable, and who knows where that leads, right? Removal of the service entirely, paying large amounts of money to get rid of it, bad PR, the whole gamut. So as a result, it ends up being a situation where the sites end up policing themselves and potentially over-policing themselves. And they want to make sure that they don't trip the line of the law. And ultimately what that does is that limits the free speech online. It also ends up potentially reducing and eliminating end-to-end encryption. And encryption ends up being, the deeper I went into Earn It, ends up being the really big it's almost hidden in this, right? Earn It itself says that encryption will not in and of itself increase liability for a provider when it's used. So Earnit isn't saying if you're a site and you're using encryption, someone disseminates this CSAM imagery through an encrypted connection on your site, then you're held liable because you're offering encryption. It doesn't say that. But many people argue that Earnit puts, as I said, that onus on the sites and the providers to deter this content. And the chilling effect of all of this is that encryption, they end up removing encryption because that might be an avenue for the distribution of this. And if the government can't put into law some sort of restriction around encryption and getting rid of it entirely, they end up creating something like this that enables the site operators to do it for them so that they don't have to pass the law, because the site operators are already scared to death of tripping the line of the law. And so they reduce that. And what does that end up leading to? That ends up leading to people who need encryption, for safe communication, for human rights, staying safe. Maybe they live in a country or in a situation, it could be domestic violence, whatever it is, where they want to protect their communication. And that's actually saving their life, just as one example. And the elimination of encryption would make that a whole lot worse, would make things a whole lot more dangerous and riskier for them. So ultimately, their speech would be inhibited and their safety would be threatened. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I've learned. There's the whole side of the client side scanning thing, which, Mikah, you and I are very familiar with Apple. Recently they had announced plans to do client-side scanning, on photos that were uploaded from iPhones to iCloud. And ultimately Apple ended up backing off because people lost their ever-loving mind about that. They were not comfortable with that. But this could essentially make that even more of the norm. And so that ends up being why critics are very opposed to Earnit, which here we are, just moved forward in the Senate, and without a committee, which ultimately means that it means wider debate over this act would be ultimately avoided. So there you go. I don't know. I don't know if that clears things up for you. It certainly did for me, and I'm curious to know what you think, Mikah.
Yeah, so I mean that is helpful. I really do feel like I still don't know enough about this, and I think that ultimately the seeking out the responses that are out there regarding this is an incredibly important part of it, to understand the nuance and what companies do benefit from and don't benefit from with this, because I think one could argue that either side of this argument is a group of people who are like trying to do as much as possible, as opposed to taking a more scalpel-like approach to what they are aiming for. You've got the side that's like, the only way we're going to push this through is if we go to the extreme, and then it starts to get worked back a little bit in the committees. So by the time we get there, it's still pretty intense, but it's not as intense as we started out. And then you've got the other side who are saying, we've got to say that this is the worst possible thing ever so that people believe us, so that there's, an effort to not make this happen. And so trying to cut through that sort of extremism that is almost required to exist on both sides is what makes this difficult in terms of understanding what it truly means, how it's truly working or not working, and whether or not folks can like celebrate this. Because of course, when it comes to CSAM, there's not a single person out there who I guess I'll say there's not a single good person out there who doesn't want to do whatever we can possible to make sure that CSAM is dealt with. And I think that it should be dealt with in a very, full-bodied, incredibly powerful approach that does its best to eliminate as much as possible. But when folks make the argument that it is being used as a method to push through surveillance and backdoors and all that kind of stuff. Like, those are concerns that I totally understand. And it ends up being a rhetorical method to shut people down on having that argument, because then you just say, yeah, but we're talking about CSAM here, and
right.
You wouldn't be arguing against protecting the kids, would you? So it's just such a tough thing. And I don't, even after, I think you've done a good job of explaining what this is, what it's not. But there's just a lot of information out there that needs to be understood to have a truly nuanced understanding of this. And I don't have that.
Yeah. I mean, I would echo what you said, right? Most people would agree that CSAM is horrible. But, at the end of the day, do the lawmakers who are actually voting for Earn It, do they truly understand the broader kind of impact of a bill like this, the way, people who work in technology, proponents of free speech, all this, do they understand that? And sadly, I think the answer is some of them understand it, yes. And that's exactly why they're pushing it through. It's kind of the perfect Trojan horse for that kind of that rationale of, but think of the children, which, I mean, this is not the first time that think of the children has been used for purposes other than the children, which is not to say that this wouldn't have some impact on CSAM. I'm sure it would. But, again, baby gets thrown out with the bathwater in this case. And suddenly, we're living on an internet where speech is inhibited in ways that we didn't consider prior. And, is that a good enough trade-off? Like, is there value in that trade-off to say, well, our speech it's okay that we don't have free speech anymore because there's less CSAM, if in fact there is less CSAM as a result of something like this. And who knows? It might not. It might just push it underground, which is kind of what happened with FOSTA back in 2018, the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. And actually Earn It is modeled after that. That was passed. Sex work became more dangerous. It kind of pushed those services deeper underground. And a lot of people think, well, here you are, you're modeling it after that. That's what you're going to see here too. It's not like CSAM goes away. It's just, it goes further underground. It becomes harder to track. It becomes harder to find. So I don't know what the answer is, but there you have it. That's what I understand around Earn It at this point. I'll be curious to see where it develops.
Indeed. All right. Up next, a bizarre story on top of a bizarre story on top of a bizarre story. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by BetterHelp. Got a couple of questions. Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? What interferes with your happiness? Well, you can find some answers by checking out betterhelp.com/TNW. I've talked a little bit about BetterHelp before because we were asked to sign up for the service and check it out. BetterHelp had us do that. And the process to get going, they ask you some questions about yourself. And some of those questions, if you've ever sought help before, they will be familiar to you. Those are the standard questions, sort of medically, that determine someone's level of depression, anxiety, and that kind of thing, sort of gauging their mental state. But then there are some interesting questions that aren't those ones that you're used to. There are questions about your sort of alignment, if you will, your beliefs, your values, et cetera, et cetera. And filling out those questions is very helpful for this service, because what happens is you fill out kind of all the stuff that you are, who you are, what you're dealing with, and then the therapists on the service, the licensed therapists, go through these different folks who've signed up for the service, myself included, and they say, our values align, and I, can help this person. I really do believe I can help this person. And then that therapist finds you. So it's going to assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. That means you're going to connect in a safe and private online environment. And what's great is that it's super convenient. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. In fact, that's how it worked for me. In under 48 hours, the therapist matched with me and said, hey, I think I'd be able to help you. Showed me some... there was this whole page kind of about her values and some different responses from other clients that she's had or, different folks who have worked with her. And I tell you what, it was amazing because we were chatting on the first day and she starts talking about quantum mechanics and its relation to emotion. And it was just like, oh my God, I love these metaphors you're spouting. I love that you're super nerdy. I love that you want to go in depth about all of this. And it just was perfect. It worked out perfectly. But it's the good thing is if it doesn't work out perfectly the first time, that's okay because they can help you find somebody else. This is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is true professional counseling done securely online. You can send a message to your counselor anytime. That's another thing. If you don't want to do like a video call or an audio call, you can send a message, and that way you'll get timely and thoughtful responses. You can schedule those weekly video or phone sessions all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room stewing while you're waiting to go in for your appointment. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free, as I said, to change counselors if you need to. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, especially if you're having to bounce between different therapists to find the one that's right for you. And what's super cool is that BetterHelp has financial aid available. The service is available for clients worldwide, and you can find the particular expertise you need online, so you don't have to limit yourself to the counselors that are located near you. You'll find licensed professional counselors who are specialized in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, big one right now, trauma, anger, family conflicts, LGBTQ plus matters, grief, self-esteem, all sorts of stuff that you might be dealing with. Anything you share, of course, is confidential. It's convenient, it's professional, and it's affordable. You can check out the testimonials posted daily on BetterHelp's site. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are currently recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. We want you to start living a happier life today. So as a listener, you're going to get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/TNW. Join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/TNW. Thank you so much to BetterHelp for sponsoring this week's episode of Tech News Weekly. All right, so earlier this week, there was a story that hit regarding a man and woman who were accused of a laundering scheme involving cryptocurrency. So the DOJ, the Department of Justice, charged this husband and wife duo for a $4.5 billion cryptocurrency conspiracy. Say that 3 times fast. The way that this worked, so the Department of Justice confiscated 94,000 Bitcoin. 94,000 Bitcoin. And what's wild is that that equals $3.6 billion. The DOJ has never had a larger financial seizure. This is the largest financial seize it's ever had in the history of the department. $3.6 billion from 2 people.
It's insanity. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just wild. Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan are the 2 who are charged with doing this crime. It says that they were trying to launder 119,754 Bitcoin in total that were stolen a long time ago, and I can't remember what year it was. In 2016, these were stolen from the cryptocurrency exchange Bitfinex. So that exchange was targeted by hackers in 2016, and there were, according to this report, about 2,000 unauthorized transactions. Apparently, the stolen Bitcoin from that exchange were sent to a digital wallet that's managed by Ilya Lichtenstein. 25,000 of those were moved to accounts controlled by Liechtenstein and Morgan, and the remainder stayed in that wallet. Now, this is also interesting. I think this detail is really interesting as part of the piece is that Department of Justice agents, the way that they, got into more, because I'm going, how did they find out about this? I thought the whole thing about cryptocurrency is that it's like if people steal, it's just gone. Department of Justice agents were able to obtain private keys to the wallet. How did they do that? They did that by using search warrants. And in doing so, they were able to seize more than 94,000 Bitcoin stolen from Bitfinex. Now, it doesn't talk a whole lot about Liechtenstein and Morgan on their own. It just says they're in their early 30s. But because of the court documents, which are available to the public, they discovered that they go by aliases. I bet you can guess which one is called Dutch, perhaps the one whose name is Liechtenstein. And then Morgan's alias is Razzle Khan. Razzle Khan, spelled Razzlekan. Well, it turns out that Razzle Khan is also a rapper, as well as a Forbes writer, and may have also written for Inc., the publication. One of Heather Morgan's posts on Forbes is a story called, quote, "Experts Share Tips to Protect Your Business from Cyber Criminals." Oh, the irony. So Morgan is a well-written writer across different places, including Forbes, and identifies as a serial entrepreneur, a surreal artist, a rapper. And one of the videos that Razzle Khan has posted on YouTube says, quote, "This song represents who I am, a CEO with a certain adjective before that I won't say on the show, and female rapper who's ready to take on Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and any other place that oppresses individual uniqueness and self-expression." And then on Razzle Khan's personal website, she likens herself to Genghis Khan, which now makes sense why her name is Razzle Khan. But she is Genghis Khan with more pizzazz. So there's where the razzle comes from. And her style has been described as, quote, "sexy horror comedy," because of her fondness for combining dark and disturbing concepts with dirty jokes and gestures. Just a fascinating person all around. And I guess in comparison, Liechtenstein is rather boring. But these two appear to have sort of bounced money around to different places. They both work in finance. And so this BuzzFeed News article kind of talks about how it's likely that, they use some of these techniques because the DOJ even says they were able to use sophisticated laundering techniques. And it's not a surprise given that their background is in sort of the finance industry. So they used fictitious identities to open online accounts. They used automating transactions that would, bounce things all over the place. And then chain hopping, which exchanges one type of cryptocurrency for another in the hopes that it can help conceal the money trail. They've been charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering and conspiracy to defraud the United States, which could net them the maximum prison sentences are 20 years for the first, 5 years for the second. So 25 years in prison at the most. And I do wonder if Razzle Khan will be rapping in prison.
Possibly so. I mean, you can't stop the beat, right?
You cannot stop the beat, even if the beat is illegal.
Even if the beat's locked up. The one thing I keep wondering, understanding that like 4.5 billion is the value of the cryptocurrency right now is like with cryptocurrency, it's so
That's
wild.
A good point.
Right? Like the value is so wild, not that it would change a single thing. The fact is they had an insane amount of Bitcoin that they laundered and, the value would of course be a lot. But cryptocurrency value just in general is so like out there that like when I see $4.5 billion cryptocurrency laundering scheme, I can't help but kind of put a little asterisk by that and just like be, okay, yeah, if they had actually cashed out or sold, but which they didn't. It was still funny kind of fake money online. But that's neither here nor there. They committed fraud, no question. I mean, based on what we know anyways through these charges and everything. But I can't help but kind of wonder a little bit about that. Like, everything I think about cryptocurrency is like, yeah, I mean, sure, it has value, but it only really, I mean, well, maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong, but it only really has value when you actually cash it out and it becomes fiat, right? Maybe not. I mean, I guess you can spend Bitcoin.
That's such a good question. Is the argument like at the point at which they were literally going through the process of turning the Bitcoin into money, that is what the charge is based on? Like, this could be a precedent-setting case in that way. Because what if tomorrow Bitcoin just completely tanked? Then they wouldn't be charged with 4.5. You know what I mean? Or in theory,
or would they? Or maybe it was 4.5 billion of value when they made the transaction.
Button. Yeah, exactly. Which one?
But yeah, wow. I don't know. It's kind of interesting just because of just how volatile cryptocurrency is. But I don't know.
This could be precedent setting. That would be a really interesting outcome with this. So
it could also be a really good TV movie. So
I'm sure
maybe we'll see it.
Who will Jennifer Lawrence play Razzle Khan? And
yes, right. That works. I love that.
What's his name? He's golly. He was in that horrible Prometheus movie. He played Steve Jobs. Fassbender.
Oh, Fassbender. Okay.
I don't know if he's actually Dutch, but I feel like he could play Liechtenstein.
From Steve Jobs to Liechtenstein.
He's German-Irish, so definitely not Dutch, but I also
no matter what, I'm sure we'll see this.
So
yeah, I'm sure we'll see this done
HBO
in
Go
some sort of a. There you go.
Now,
yeah, it would be at HBO Go. Yeah, HBO Now or whatever. Yeah, interesting stuff though. Very, very different story. I think. As far as that's concerned. And also, it sounds like a record-breaking kind of amount of money. That's I mean, again, that kind of goes back to what my point was. Like, okay, it's record-breaking, but like it's crypto. Like, it wouldn't be very difficult in my estimation to, hit those numbers. But it's not the same. In my view, it's not the same as having like $4.5 billion like in an account. Wait, you know what I mean?
What's the Department of Justice going to do with that?
Maybe
is it always going to be sitting in evidence, or does the Department of Justice get to use that money that was seized? Like, how does that work? And are they going to turn it into real money, or is it going to sit in digital evidence jail for a whole long time, and then eventually when Bitcoin is like, and then when they do something with it, they're going to move the market, right? Because exactly.
They're kind of a whale. They're kind of a whale in crypto. So
holy moly! The Department of Justice just became head of Bitcoin.
They're like, we've got the power. We've got the power. Yes, indeed. From We've Got the Beat to We've Got the Power. All right, let's wrap this up. This is the end of this episode of Tech News Weekly. We do the show every Thursday at twit.tv/TNW. That's the place on the web that you can go to subscribe, and you can find all the information there to subscribe in audio, video formats. By the way, just real quick, twit.tv/survey22. That's the web. That's the URL that you can go to if you want to help us out a little bit. Every year we do a quick kind of audience survey. It's a form. It only takes a couple of minutes to fill out, but it really helps us to understand our audience and what we're doing right and what we could be doing better. Things, content that we're not representing on the network that you would like to see, all sorts of things. So twit.tv/survey22, answer as much or as little as you like, and it's all super helpful to us. We think it will result in a better twit for you. So thank you for that.
Indeed. Another way to keep that better twit for you going is by joining Club Twit. What happens when you join Club Twit? Well, you get some pretty great stuff. It's just $7 a month at twit.tv/clubtwit, and you get all of our shows ad-free. That's right. You can listen through the entire show without ads. You also get access to the members-only Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra content you won't find anywhere else. What's at the Twit Plus bonus feed? Well, You've got AMAs with some awesome guests. You've got all sorts of stuff behind the scenes, before the show, after the show. There may end up being a funny clip of John Ashley in there at some point, who knows, as well as access to the Discord. I just seem to remember a duck or a chicken.
You know John Ashley, you know what we're talking about.
You can get access to the Discord server where you can join with your fellow Club Twit members for conversations, and also those of us here at Twit as well. The Club Twit Discord is always busy with lots of folks in there having great conversations. You can also subscribe to individual shows if you'd like using Apple Podcasts. If you go into Apple Podcasts, you search Tech News Weekly and find the audio version of the show, there'll be a button to subscribe for $2.99 a month. Doing so gets you the ad-free version of the audio feed. If you're looking for me online, you can find me at Mikah Sargent, or head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. But as far as here on the Twit network, you can check me out on Tuesdays for iOS Today with Rosemary Orchard. And I think in the next couple of weeks, I will be rejoining Leo Laporte on Saturdays for the Tech Guy Radio Show. Nice. Jason Howell, tell me about you.
I'm excited to hear that. Yes, things are changing again. So looking forward to that. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter, doing other shows on the TWiT network, like All About Android, sometimes with Florence Ion, who was on earlier in this episode. She's on once a month. twit.tv/AAA. If you like Android, we'll definitely be talking about we'll be talking about it, what we talked about on the show earlier today, and so much more this upcoming Tuesday. Big thanks to John Ashley. Big thanks to Burke. I'm no longer thanking John Slanina because he's not in on Thursdays, although I keep mentioning it, so he kind of gets in there anyways. And thanks to you for watching and listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on Tech News Weekly. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Did you spend a lot of money on your brand new smartphone, and then you look at the pictures on Facebook and Instagram and you're like, what in the world happened to that photo? Yes, you have. I know. It happens to all of us. Well, you need to check out my show, Hands On Photography, where I'm going to walk you through simple tips and tricks that are going to help make you get the most out of your smartphone camera or your DSLR or mirrorless, whatever you have. And those shots are going to look so much better. I promise you. So make sure you're tuning in to twit.tv/hop for Hands On Photography to find out more.